Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Thursday, August 28th, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Boy, them white Republicans in Louisiana are crazy. They're taking their fight over voting rights straight to the U.S. Supreme Court. They're trying to gut a key provision of the Voting Rights Act because they do not want to see black people get a second congressional district. They lost once, now they're trying to go back again. Activist Gary Chambers will be here to talk about this very issue. Folks, 70 years ago on this day, Emmett Till was lynched in Mississippi. 62 years ago on this day, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous I Have a Dream speech. Well, today, it was a day of prayer here in the nation's capital. Pastor Jamal Bryant, Pastor William Lamar, of course, here at a church in D.C., and Reverend Al Sharpton had a protest on Wall Street in New York as well. We'll show you a little bit of both. Also, Donald Trump, yeah, he keep firing people. This time, the Surface Transportation Board member, Robert Primus. Could it be his stance on a merger that got him fired? U.S. Open, a French player, racist, makes remarks after she got her ass kicked by American Taylor Townsend, who fired back and who said, "Oh, I want all the smoke." All the smoke. Lots to talk about. And it's time to bring the funk. On Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, let's go.
He's got whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Now, folks, Louisiana, they already lost in the Supreme Court over the creation of a second black congressional district. They've had their state maps struck down. These racist white Republicans in Louisiana, they do not want to see black people get any political power in Louisiana. But guess what they now have done? They now have gone back to the Supreme Court, now wanting them to strike down a provision of the Voting Rights Act, but they also are arguing that, oh no, there should be no use of race in any redistricting decision. Now, here's the problem. Problem is this here. Supreme Court is looking at it. If the Supreme Court rules in Louisiana's favor, this could literally wipe out half of all of the Congressional Black Caucus. Now, in a recent legal brief, Louisiana called on the court to overturn Thornburg versus Gingles. Now, this landmark 1986 ruling has long required states to draw legislative maps that fairly represent minority voters where racially polarized voting exists. Louisiana say they are not going to defend their own current congressional map, even though they were just defending those congressional maps. That map includes 2 majority black districts among the state's 6 congressional seats. Activist Gary Chambers Jr. joins us right now. Gary, glad to have you back on the show. So, Louisiana is doing the same thing Texas did. Going, Texas said, oh no, our 2020 maps, we didn't use race. Trump says, they were drawn illegally using race. And Texas goes, okay, we got to change them. So Louisiana, so tell me, the Louisiana Attorney General was literally just defending the very maps that they now say they're not going to defend.
Thank you, as always, Roland, for illuminating the issues here in Louisiana. Attorney General Liz Morrell has basically done, if you were someone who was on trial for murder and you had a lawyer that all of a sudden went to the judge and said, my client said they were not guilty, but I'm going to say that they're guilty and change the plea. That is what Liz Morrell has done in the middle of the stream. In March, she went before the Supreme Court to defend the maps that were drawn that gave Louisiana 2 black majority congressional districts. And now she has submitted a brief to the Supreme Court saying that when she comes to the court in October, that she believes that provisions of the Voting Rights Act should be struck down and that we should not have racialized districting because she believes that that is racist. The problem is that there has never been a time in America where racially polarized voting did not exist. Racially polarized voting still exists, and we know that because the Fifth Circuit just gave a ruling several weeks ago where it highlighted the race where I was in 2022 against Luke Mixon here, and there's a portion of that ruling that lays out that even when you segregate the conversation to just Democrats, that 60% of white voters voted for the white candidate, and that 60% of white candidates voted for the white candidate, and that 40% voted for the black candidate, and that 76% of black voters voted for the black candidate. What that tells us is that people are still voting based on their race because this state continues to deny black people because of their race.
Okay, and so what's crazy here, which is, again, just completely nonsensical, is Louisiana is trying another bite at the apple because they got rejected, and they tried everything. They went back to the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit ruled in their favor, and back and forth. And the Supreme Court's like, no, hell no. It violates Section. Then it was like, okay, fine, it violates Section 2, so we got to go ahead and do it. Same as Alabama. So these white Republicans in Louisiana, they have tried everything not to create this second district.
They've tried everything not to create it. The district was created under Jeff Landry. Jeff Landry never wanted to give us a second majority black congressional district. Liz Morrell said in this briefing that she gave that she defended this case in March, but she never changed her original position that these maps should not have been drawn. These maps and this decision is the most important conversation that should be happening in America. I know that folks are talking about Texas, Gavin Newsom's making noise in California, but if Gavin isn't coming to Louisiana, if Pritzker isn't coming to Louisiana, if they aren't making noise about what I consider the factory of current modern day white supremacy, if they aren't coming to the ground zero to come and see how do you make an impact where there are 4 million people, where you get a lower cost per vote to turn the vote in Louisiana than you do in Texas, than you do in Georgia, than you do in North Carolina, than you do in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, yet there's never been a serious attempt to do work in Louisiana, yet Kevin Rogers from the Heritage Foundation, Lafayette, Louisiana, born and raised, went to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, wrote his dissertation on slavery. When you go back to Mike Johnson and Steve Scalise, Benton, Louisiana, Metairie, Louisiana, running the United States House of Representatives, helping move the agenda of Project 2025, and then you look at Jeff Landry and the cadre that supports him, and Liz Morrell, his hench person in the Attorney General office, has one of the most consequential cases in the history of our country before our Supreme Court, and Kavanaugh asking a question talking about a sunset on the Voting Rights Act, when the reality is, when will there ever be a sunset on racism? And these folks are talking about places other than Louisiana. It is mind-blowing to me, Roland. It is mind-blowing that the Democratic Party has encamped out in Louisiana, made serious investment in this state to show people that this is where the bigotry that we are trying to root out of this country is being orchestrated from. And if we solve it here, we can begin to uproot it in the rest of the country.
Who is the head of the Louisiana Democratic Party?
Currently, it is a brother by the name of Randall Gaines, former state representative.
Where is he?
Good question.
I mean, I'm just being honest. I've never received, like if I pull it up right now, this right here, go to my iPad. This is Louisiana Democrats. It says party leaders. Chair is Randall Gaines. And then it says Congressman Cleo Fields. It says Congressman Troy Carter, Senator Gerald Boudreaux, Representative Matthew Willard, House Democratic Caucus Chair. So the top 5 party leaders in Louisiana are all black.
Yes, sir.
So, and I'm being straight up honest with you, Gary. You're the only one who's hit me direct trying to raise these issues. Not a single one of the black. I need everybody to understand. No, go to my iPad. I'm not showing y'all. This is not the leaders of the black caucus of the Democratic Party. No, these are the party leaders of the Democratic Party in the whole state of Louisiana. They're all black men. Am I missing something, Gary? Am I leaving anybody out?
I think that too often that we believe that we can get in the room and work a deal with people who are working against us every single day. Too often we've went in the room with some of these same people that are working against us in these Supreme Court decisions to make deals that were compromising to begin with, and now we're trying to figure out how not to have egg on our face before the voters of this state. The reality is that people have to recognize that I can't fight a devil that I helped put in position.
Go back to my iPad, y'all. This is the executive committee of the Louisiana Democratic Party. And so you see Randall Gaines chair, Katie Darling is first vice chair, Kyle Grace is second vice chair, Belinda Davis, Jeremy J.F. Thompson, C. Denise Marcel, Gian Duran, Dustin Granger, Laurie Herbert, Constantinu, Marjorie Esmond, Catherine Hurst, Michelle Johnson, Kyle Green, Lauren Jewett, Mel Manuel, and then you keep Leslie Bowie, Ryan Price, Giselle Hawkins, Jay Regan, Tarika Williams, Jerry Bowman, Lori Callis, Jamie Davis Jr., Vanessa Caston LaFleur, Corey Smith, Tia Mills, Matt Wood, J.E. Dubois. If I go to the top here, this is the executive committee. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 of the people on the Louisiana Democratic Party Executive Committee are black. And what's crazy, Gary, I ain't heard from one of these people to talk about this Supreme Court case that, if successful, could literally wipe out half of the Congressional Black Caucus. Are these people organizing and mobilizing the state?
Now, Roland, there are people on that list that are actively doing work. They don't have the bandwidth or the platform in some instances. Now, there are people that are not as forward thinking that are part of that leadership. And I think that they too often stand in the way of a real aggressive fight because there are too many people who believe that you can negotiate with terrorists. If these people continue to put a gun to our head the way that they do with our rights, why are we negotiating with them? The other thing to remember, Roland, is if this is effective, this doesn't take us back to 1964. This takes us back to 1877 at the end of Reconstruction. It allows them to eliminate black city council seats. It will allow them to eliminate black seats in the state legislature, not just in Louisiana. This will happen in every state in America. It will be the only seats and positions that black people will be able to hold will be citywide elected seats or at-large positions or mayor's positions. We will not be in a position to be able to have district seats even in majority black cities. And there was a time in America where that existed for 100+ years for black people in this country. And I think that too many of us have stayed on TikTok too long listening to informational videos to people who haven't picked up an encyclopedia that don't understand the reality of the dangers that we are facing today.
This is an ABC News story. Louisiana urges Supreme Court to bar use of race in redistricting in attack on voting rights. Louisiana has abandoned its defense of a political map that elected 2 black members of Congress and instead called on the Supreme Court to reject any consideration of race in redistricting in a case that could bring major changes to the Voting Rights Act. Now, here's what's crazy when you look at this here. This is what UCLA law professor Richard Hassan says. If Louisiana's argument prevailed at the Supreme Court, it would almost certainly lead to a whiter and less representative Congress, as well as significantly less minority representation across the country in legislatures, city councils, and across other district-based bodies. The state's high court filing was in response to the justice's call for new briefing and arguments in the Louisiana case, which they first heard earlier this year. Arguments will take place on October 15th. race-based redistricting is fundamentally contrary to our Constitution, said the Attorney General Elizabeth Morrell. But here's the thing, Gary. They do like race-based redistricting.
They do.
If it's white.
Yes, sir.
See, that's what I keep trying to explain to people. See, everybody keep talking about identity politics. If it's black, Latino, no. White is an identity. What they want, what they desire are to have as many white districts, because what have I been saying with my book, White Fear, how the browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. They are scared to death of the nation becoming majority people of color. They want to hold on to power. They do not want to let go. They want as many white folks in power as long as possible. Donald Trump don't want no black immigrants. He don't want no brown immigrants. He's like, why can't we just recruit as many white folk as we possibly can? And all of these folks are walking around being delusional and not understanding. And again, I keep saying this, and I love dancing. I love stepping, dancing, strolling, whatever the hell we want to do. But a lot of black folk are preoccupied with doing boots on the ground line dances and not understanding that these people want to completely, I keep saying it, defund black America. They want to snatch as much of our political power, economic power, educational power, what we've done in the area of health. They are going after it all. And the way to do that is to rip away our political infrastructure.
They are actively going after our mayors. They are actively targeting them with the government. They are trying to take away black political power within the Republican Party. And then we are arguing with black folks, trying to convince black folks that New Orleans still needs a black mayor. That we are having conversations with black people in this day that don't understand that in a time when people are attacking your very existence in power, where you have an attorney general of your state that is saying, actively saying that race should not matter when you know that they are discriminating against you. There has not been a black person elected statewide in Louisiana since the 1870s. And the reasons that those things exist is because racial hatred and bigotry still exist. The question I always ask is, when the white folks that were in the pictures in 1960s, when they were the ones picketing and boycotting against our children going to the school, where did those grandmothers go? Where were their children that were in the same school with my mother who went to a segregated McKinley High School? Where did all of those 78, 80-year-old people go? And who are their children? Who are their grandchildren? What do they manage? What positions of power are they holding here in Louisiana, here in Mississippi, here in Alabama, where they have learned that quiet racism works better than loud racism? So we will quote Dr. King in the very documents that we filed with the Supreme Court to strip your power away from you. They will bastardize our words and work against us because we are naive and foolish to think that our enemies are in any way trying to feed us anything good. They are broke clocks, wrong every single day.
You sent me this video of Jeff Landry. When was that video? When was that?
This was when, on Dr. King Day, Jeff opened a special session last year in 2024 to draw our congressional maps over. And he gives this speech where he quotes Dr. King, and he starts illuminating how Dr. King, it was so hard for Dr. King. He had to fight against things. All we have to do is press a button. But now your attorney general is working against that.
So here's what I want to do. I want to play this video, y'all. And if y'all want to hear word salad, I listened to it. I was like, man, what the hell is he talking about? Y'all listen to this. Y'all gonna get a kick out of this. Listen.
As we work on other electoral reforms with these redistricting maps, now is the time to also deal, I believe, with this common sense change. Today, we honor Dr. Martin Luther King. And I do not believe that it is mere irony that finds us here today, on this great day, on this consecrated day, where we seek to amplify the voice of few, where we seek to broaden the opportunity for participation in the government and governance of our people. The courage and the wisdom and the relentless pursuit of fairness in our electoral process was exactly what Dr. King spoke for. And so it should be profoundly moving that we do this on this day. In fact, his words in 1968, I believe, are wholly appropriate 56 years later at this very hour, where he said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." You see, for Dr. King's, his was an uphill journey into the headwinds of hate. His was a march into a battle, while ours is a mere walk in the park. His was a persecution for speaking his truth, while ours is just a comfortable dialogue. His was a mighty shove, while yours is simply a mere push of the button. Ladies and gentlemen, let us take these affairs and the things that have divided us in this state off the table so we can begin the work that the people have sent us here. God bless you. God bless each and every one. As we work on other electoral
I have
reforms,
no idea, Gary, what the hell he was talking about. He was just talking, talking. But I do want people to understand this is what this Associated Press story says. And y'all heard Gary say this, and I said this the other day as well. Go to my iPad. Y'all listen. It says, a second round of arguments is a rare occurrence at the Supreme Court and sometimes presages a major change by the High Court. The Citizens United decision in 2010 that led to dramatic increases in independent spending in U.S. elections came after it was argued a second time. When the court first heard the Louisiana case in March, several of the court's conservative justices suggested they could vote to throw out the map and make it harder, if not impossible, to bring redistricting lawsuits under the Voting Rights Act. The case involves the interplay between race and politics and drawing political boundaries. Just 2 years ago, the court, by 5-4 vote, affirmed a ruling that found a likely violation of the Voting Rights Act in a similar case over Alabama's congressional map. Chief Justice John Roberts and Justice Brett Kavanaugh joined their 3 more liberal colleagues in the outcome. Gary, I have been screaming from the rooftops. Black folks, pay attention. These arguments are October 15th. And again, it has been Clarence Thomas's wet dream to invalidate the Voting Rights Act. Black people have no idea how devastating this decision could be. And these Supreme Court justices are literally lining it up.
I think that for all of the conversations that Gavin Newsom and others are having on podcasts, if you can't get down here and illuminate the issue that is taking place in Louisiana that will uproot everything that we fundamentally understand in this country to exist as normal, I think that it's smoke and mirrors. It's all hogwash. Here's the other thing. You are letting people from the 50th ranked state in the nation run the gamut on you. We are letting people who come from the place that ranks dead last in almost every major category that this country values as the future or prosperity, we are last at it. We are last in the environmental quality. We are last in the economy. We are last in crime. We rank last. We are at almost the bottom in education and healthcare. When you look at the results of the leadership of this place, and Mike Johnson is number 1 in the House of Representatives, and his henchmen are in this state unraveling a case that could uproot everything we know, every piece of leadership of the Democratic Party should have touched ground in the state of Louisiana immediately. This should not get to an October 15th court case before every eye in the country is paying attention to what's happening here, because if you don't, it's going to be knocking on your door very, very soon.
I want to bring in my panel, opportunity for them to ask you Some questions, Gary. Dr. Nola Haynes, Georgetown University School of Foreign Service out of D.C. Dr. Greg Carter, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Out of D.C., Reese Colbert, host of the Reese Colbert Show. Sirius XM Radio out of D.C. Reese, you first.
Thank you, Gary, for constantly, obviously, putting Louisiana in the spotlight. I would like you to talk a little bit more about the return on investment in terms of how you said how cheap it would be to actually activate people. One of the things we always talk about is that if we just voted our capacity or even a higher proportion of our capacity, we can see those results. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that return and what's stopping people from making the investment?
So that's a phenomenal question, Reese. When you look at, for instance, when I ran in 2022, I think we spent about $5 to $7 a vote to beat the Democrat that was in the race against us. He raised, I think it was $3 million, which he spent about $9 to $10 a vote. To compare, Raphael Warnock spent about $100 a vote. In other states, they spent over $40 or $50 a vote. John Kennedy spent over $50 a vote to win the U.S. Senate race in Louisiana. Why does that matter? Because when you look at Louisiana, if there was a real investment between Luke Mixon and myself, there wasn't even a $5 million investment in the candidates that were running statewide, but were able to generate $5 to $6 a vote. That tells me that if the Democratic Party took some of the dollars that they were investing in some of the places that they lost or in candidates that are not as impactful, they would get more of a harvest in Louisiana, more of a harvest in Mississippi for the dollars that they invest because the dollars go further. I know Rollers from Texas, but even in Texas, what you're going to spend on a vote in Texas and how many votes you have to turn in Texas, you need to turn over 5 million voters in Texas to win a statewide election. In Louisiana, you need to turn over anywhere from 500 to 900,000 voters. So if I need to turn over 500 to 900,000 voters, and it may cost me $7 a vote on the low end to turn that voter out, what if I spent $50 a vote in Louisiana?
We call that we call that basic math. Nola?
Mm-hmm. Gary, thank you so much for the work that you are always doing in our home state. My question is, Roland showed the Black male leaders in Louisiana and then the rest of the 16 other Black leaders in Louisiana. What needs to happen on the ground that isn't happening right now for people to understand what's at stake? Because it just can't be you. You are amazing, but it just cannot be you.
I want to be clear that when I ran for the Senate in 2022, it was Black leaders within the Democratic Party that helped take that endorsement away from me. So some of those same people still exist within the Democratic Party. You could look at one of the only Black women in the state Senate, Senator Katrina Jackson from North Louisiana. She was just in a picture praising Bill Cassidy the other day. Bill Cassidy's about to run for the U.S. Senate race next year. We shouldn't have a single Democrat taking a picture standing up praising Bill Cassidy. When you got people within the state Senate that represent you, that are willing to compromise, when you got leaders who find that if I can get a little bit out of him, it doesn't matter because I'm able to at least help my people in this climate. How are you helping your people if they're stripping away every single thing that your people are fight for the history of this country? It's not, it is literally working against our best interest. And when you say those things, now I'm against you or I'm attacking you. No, these are facts and these things harm our potential as Black people. They harm our effectiveness as Black people. And until we as voters decide that some of these people cannot continue to represent us in the leadership of the party and that some of these people cannot continue to represent us in our state legislature, we are fighting a losing battle when we put compromising people in positions of power. Now, you may think that I'm too doggish or that I'm too bombastic, but the people who are against you are very doggish and very bombastic, and they are at war with you, and you're sitting there playing like you're at church on Sunday.
Greg.
Thank you, Roland. And Brother Gary, it's always good to hear your voice and to be able to learn and listen as you work. I quote you all the time, brother, when you say the South's not red, it's just underorganized. And I want to ask you, when you talk about bandwidth plus platform, and the other element, study and analysis, I think is important. And you've demonstrated that to us. And when you put that together with a force of personality, I think it leads to why you are who you are. I want to ask you about the possibilities of withdrawing our participation. And I'm not just talking about politically. I mean, we got these establishment folk, and then you got organic folk who kind of coming up from wherever we are. Do you imagine that there will be a tipping point, not necessarily in electoral politics, but in the behavior of the people who don't participate at all? I'm imagining perhaps some young woman or young man who will decide not to dribble a ball for LSU on the basketball court or the football. And then, could we tap into those unengaged folk? Not the people who don't vote, the people who make the majority in places like Louisiana. What's our strategy for maybe even going beyond party politics at this point? And instead of just being within that framework of the Democratic Republican Party, just continuing to follow your lead in engaging those folks who will become engaged and politically active, who don't care about the political labels of Democrat or Republican, but are looking to acquire power. How do we go about that, brother? What's the message for those folks?
It's always good to talk to you, Doc, and I owe you a call.
No. I was looking for your number. I couldn't find it, man. So Roland will get you. We're going to talk, brother. We got to get to DC.
I got you.
So I really feel, I was in Vacherie, Louisiana last week with Sarita Stibe and Emil Washington and Will Sutton, good black folk who just trying to help black people. Vacherie is in St. James Parish. St. James is a majority black parish with one black elected official parish-wide. We didn't go in with the Democratic Party. We didn't go in there talking no Democrat Party stuff. We went in there talking to black people about their power and what they can do to mobilize and energize the 4,000 black folks who are not voting in St. James Parish. There are 64 parishes in Louisiana. We got black folks in every one of them. If we go have conversations with those people and inform them of their power, then we can unlock those people. I think that there are some people in power who don't go talk to those people, because if those people showed up to vote, some of those people would not be in power. We are of the belief that all of the people that we elect want all of the people to vote. The reality is that the people that we elect only want the people to vote that are going to vote for them. And if they think that your cousin that's at the house is potentially a cousin that's a little more rambunctious and might send them home, they're not trying to send a mail piece to that person. They don't want that person registered to vote. And we are the ones who have the belief that those people are mobilizing those people. When if you aren't knocking those doors, it's not naive that though, it's not lost on me that every time I go into those communities, there's a black person that stands up in the room and says that they hadn't heard from their elected official. That's intentional. They don't want you to hear from them until it's time to re-elect them and tell you whatever they wanted you to believe. And it's on us to get in these communities and tell black people what their power is, because most black people don't even know in these communities that if there were 1,500 more of us that showed up, that we would have a deciding outcome that changed the economic future of these communities. Because you go from a black community where some black people are getting less than 1 or 2% of contracts in those communities to a community where black people can get contracting opportunities, where black people can get those jobs, where they could work at the clerk of court's office or the mayor's office or the constable's office or the tax assessor's office or the coroner's office. Because every last one of those things touches black people's lives. And if you are paying into a tax system, then you ought to be able to reap the benefits, whether it's a job, a contract, or the benefit that the government owes you in the service.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And this is why I make the point. See, this is where people, I think, Gary, get confused. When I hear these simple Simons who go, "Oh man, you shilling for the Democratic Party." No, I understand party. I understand infrastructure. And what I am saying is, first of all, we have a two-party system. Now, there are elections in this country that are nonpartisan. So the issue is not Democrat, Republican. The issue is, which pathway, which tunnel am I more likely going to be able to get what I need for my community? If I got those two choices, it ain't going to be the Republican Party, which means to the black people who are simple Simons, my point is, if we maximize our power, we could be electing different people to office who will be running as a Democrat. That's not supporting the Democrats. That's supporting black folks who will advocate for black folks using the existing party system.
Roland, I have never run for office where over 50% of the people showed up to vote. So when we have a conversation about the output or the return on investment, you got to put something in to get something out the pot.
Boom.
And if you're not satisfied with the people that you got, then more people need to show up in a deliberate and intentional way to replace those people.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I say it all the time. There's a thing called primaries. It's a thing called primaries. You can vote somebody out, they can lose the primary. Now, you may see what happened in Buffalo when the sister who was a socialist ran against the incumbent mayor, beat him, then he ran as a write-in candidate and beat her in the primary. You see what's happening right now in New York with Mamdani, but the bottom line is that's why there is a primary system. The person who's likely to get more votes in the primary, hey, that person is likely, if it's heavily Democratic, to be the winner in a general. But you can't do nothing if you don't run, and then if you can't do nothing if you don't vote.
You know, Roland, my dad is a sports fan, and he likes football. And he always says that the refs cheat on Scotlandville High School when they play in the football game. But he has a simple analogy that he always says. If you run the score up, it doesn't matter what the refs do, they can't beat you. And so no matter how many times we have an opportunity to go vote, we should show up and we should run the score up. No matter how much they are going to cheat and play against us, every election, school board, clerk of court, constable, judges, district attorney, senators, every level show up in every one and run the score up. There's a story about Bobby Kennedy when he ran for the presidency that in Watts in LA, that in Watts that the box they called in because the box was blacked out, meaning every voter that could vote showed up to vote. We need to be willing to show up in a way to do monumental turnout in elections to show that we reject these things, because the only way that we can give ourselves the power to fight against this is delegating our authority to new leaders that believe in the same ideals that we do. These things didn't just happen and get created for us. There was a generation that believed that they could do something about the things that they saw. We need a generation that believes that they can do something about the things that we see today.
And I'm going to remind our viewers again. In 2008, that was the first time in American history where a larger percentage of black people voted than white people in this country. And that's how Obama was elected president. And then what I always say, just like I tell all of 250,000 who watched us on March 4th, where y'all go? Because we been here every night. Once you show me once you can do it, that means you can do it again if you want to.
That's right. That's right.
Gary, keep up the fight. We'll keep talking about this very issue because it is an important one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you as always, Roland.
Going to a break. I'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, we talk about the principles of mindset, strategy, and execution. This week, we're adding a fourth, faith. You're going to hear from a mother and daughter duo who are helping thousands of Black women build wealth, all through their faith.
You are more than you can ever imagine. Not just obtaining things to show that, but seeing yourself.
Making your faith work for you. That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
A Democratic member of the Surface Transportation Board, I have no idea what the hell that is Donald Trump's latest victim in his firing spree. Trump fired Robert Primus, one of the 2 Democratic members on the board. He was the only board member who opposed Canadian Pacific's acquisition of Kansas City Southern Railroad when it was approved 2 years ago, as he was concerned it would harm competition. He explained his position on CNBC.
The country. So the big thing hanging over this entire board right now is this proposed $85 billion merger between Norfolk Southern and Union Pacific. What have you said publicly about where you stand on that merger?
Well, I've said nothing publicly because as a board member, we're not supposed to. I have said in the past, and my record has reflected in my vote against the CPKC merger, that I'm very concerned with further consolidation and what that does to competition, how that affects shippers, how that affects rates, how it affects the overall public in terms of passing along those increased rates into consumer products and people paying more for those products overall. I'm worried about the service problems that tend to happen after mergers. We've had numerous meltdowns over the decades, and the American consumer, as well as the manufacturing base and production base in this country, has suffered. We've lost millions of dollars in production costs, and we've had increased consumer costs as a result of that. So
Robert,
those are all
let's just be real clear what we're dealing with here, Nola. Donald Trump, whoever hooks him up with a payoff, they're going to get hooked up. And what you are seeing here is they want to hook up anybody and everybody. And if you even express an interest against a merger, you're a goner. The raping and pillaging of this country is happening before our very eyes. And what is confusing are these crazy ass broke white MAGA folk who actually think this man give a damn about them.
Well, the conditioning is deep, right? We've talked many times about the cult-like reverence for this man. He can do whatever he wants. I was coming at some people earlier today, reminding them of a Qatari plane that the president of the United States have, and they're worried about influencers getting paid. Talk about being distracted from what's important here. But regarding this particular story, I know what it feels like to be a board member and not to be able to speak out about things, right? Especially when you see things that you don't necessarily believe in. And especially with this petty president who puts vindictiveness first, who I hope everyone understands. We are no longer tiptoeing towards authoritarianism. We are here. I hope everyone understands that quite clearly, that if there's a whiff, of going against him, then you are automatically an enemy. And he has a lot of minions to support and carry out those very vindictive orders. And we're in a very dangerous place. I'm not about to sugarcoat it. And that story with Gary Chambers, literally my blood is boiling because we are at such a tipping point in this country right now, Roland. And this president, morality does not exist. It is gone. They laugh at it. So I guess I'm just over here just trying to figure out, what do we do, with that type of personality sitting at the top?
I made this point, Greg, in that I don't think people really truly get it. And I think that this is actually, in many ways, Democrats' biggest problem. And that is, people believe, if you step back and study this republic, where Republicans want to be a theocracy and not a democracy, that they actually believed that the white founders put in guardrails, that they and they always talk about this, that they created this system that that the system would protect itself, that by creating the legislative, the executive, and the judicial, that these are three co-equal branches of government. And then whatever powers are not enumerated in the United States Constitution, those are states' rights. If it's in the Constitution, those are federal rights. And they believe that when the legislative went too far, the executive could rein them in. When the executive too far, the legislative could rein them in. And when the executive and the legislative went too far, that the judicial could rein them in. But here's the problem. They ain't nothing over the judicial. So what then happens when the judicial lines up ideologically with the legislative, and the legislative is operating in the fealty position to the executive? And then comes along someone who is unlike the previous 45 or whatever that. So the system was built in that the person who the people entrusted with the office, that this person would bring a sense of honor, decency, respect, morals, values, ethics to the position. And that person would take a position and say, no, I can't do that. That's going too far because there are rules. What this system never anticipated, to some degree, some people in the Federalist Papers did think it would happen. The system never, ever thought that you would get somebody who is so immoral, so unethical, so evil, that there is no bottom. Someone who would reduce his own party into a rubber stamp. And by having all the power, this person says, and he said it earlier this week, I can do whatever I want as president. If Biden, Obama, Bush 1, Bush 2, Clinton, Reagan, Carter, Johnson, Kennedy, Truman, Eisenhower, Truman, FDR, Wilson. I mean, we go on. If any of them had ever uttered those words, oh my God. And then, I'm sorry, there's legislative, executive, judicial, and then there's the fourth estate. Mm-hmm. But we're now living in a moment where the legislative is kissing his ass, the judicial is rubber stamping him, the media is scared to death because the people with fuck you money are literally afraid to say it. And so he's sitting there saying, I got everybody where I need them, and I am about to pimp the hell out of this office. That's literally where we are.
It is. And you've injected in that analysis, in that narrative, the wild card. You're right. Washington, Madison, Adams, Jefferson, none of them could have imagined a Donald Trump. Let me take that back. Jefferson, I think, more than the others, maybe Madison, between Madison and Jefferson could have imagined, because they both understood that the Constitution that they ratified was a living document that would have to be periodically renegotiated. They wrote that way, certainly Jefferson. I'm very excited right now about where we are in this country, because it's never been a nation, and it was going to always have to be renegotiated. The last chance that this funky criminal enterprise had to come together in a different way was really the Reconstruction era, as we've talked about many times, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Ketanji Brown Jackson understands that plainly, as does Sonia Sotomayor. But that having been said, I thought you were going somewhere else for a moment there, brother, going back to something that you bring up many times. What they could not have foreseen, and Du Bois makes this point in his suppression of the African slave trade to the United States of America in 1896, what they could not ever have foreseen was us. They kicked the can down the road with the federal constitution. They did not solve the problem of captivity, of human trafficking, which meant 2 generations later, the country almost came apart and hundreds of thousands of lives were ended. The Civil War. Du Bois says that. If they had handled it at the time, then it wouldn't have been a civil war, but that would have meant including us in the criminal enterprise, and that presents its own problems. So 100 years later, the next best chance after Reconstruction, the period of the 1950s and 60s that we call the Civil Rights Movement, was the second best chance for them to handle it. But these white supremacists can't give up the thing that keeps this country together, and that's white nationalism. Donald Trump does what he does because he's a white man. Donald Trump this week behaved like an open socialist, nationalizing 10% of Intel. If Obama had even breathed that possibility, you're a socialist, you're a communist, you can't take over. But white supremacy is not capitalist, is not socialist, it's white supremacist. And I think that if George Bush had tried to do the same thing, or Ronald Reagan had tried to do the same thing, they would have been able to get away with it. Maybe not as easily as Trump, because Trump is a naked white nationalist, unlike those others who tried to peddle soft white nationalism. Where am I going with this? The beautiful thing about this moment, is they have caught the car, and history will show us, are overextending the possibility of their reach. Last night, my law students, we were talking about the Federalist Papers, and it's interesting you mentioned the Federalist Papers. In Federalist 54, I think it is, or maybe it's 55, was John Jay or Hamilton, they were saying that the Native Americans are attached to the land. The Negroes are attached to us. What does that mean? That means that the Constitution, which is basically a contract document until you put the Bill of Rights in, the Constitution was really about commerce and protecting the landed class. It was never supposed to include the indigenous. It was never supposed to include us, and it was never supposed to include women. Now everybody's in play. Everybody's in the table. These Europeans can count. And so this document, Project 2025, an open white nationalist document, chapter 19, Department of Transportation, Diana Ferhat Roth. What we saw happen today with that brother Robert Primus is because what they want to do is privatize everything, get their grummy paws on it. But in doing that, here's the solution. We heard from Gary Chambers. What you laid out, executive, judiciary, and the legislative are now all on the same white nationalist page for however long they can maintain that, which may not be long at all, depending on the midterms. But the power, as you said, Roland, the Constitution says all things not explicitly delegated to the federal government belong to the states. What we're seeing in Illinois, what we're seeing in California, what we're seeing in Maryland, what we'll increasingly see in these other states, maybe Michigan, maybe Jersey, are going to be a civil war. I'm not talking about a shooting war. I'm talking about a political war. The states that control billions of dollars of ability to do trade, even with overseas entities, as we will see in California, they are going to break the back of the United States of America as it's presently constituted. And when they do that, it's not going to be put together the way it was before. California and New York, maybe we'll trade with India. Because India today, when Trump said, hey, 50% tariff, they was like, go to hell. We can sell our oil, we can get that Russian oil, and we're going to sell other stuff other places. The world is working on a workaround now to the United States of America. When this thing fractures, that's going to be our best opportunity. It wasn't Reconstruction, wasn't the Civil Rights Movement. Now we're in a position, we're going to renegotiate the terms of this if we can get our act together. That's going to involve some solidarity politics, but that's a conversation for another day.
As we look at this, and I've said this consistently, Reese, it can't happen until there is maximum pain. And the maximum pain, not Latinos now feeling as if they got double-crossed, not black folks saying, hashtag, we tried to tell you. But the reality is this here. This is going to have to be a moment where, and I am not remotely sold on this, but this is going to have to be the moment where these broke-ass white people and these so-called independents and these other so-called white marginalized people, which is an oxymoron, wake up and realize you got played. You had somebody who is a robber baron who played you like he is a populist. You've got J.D. Vance, Hillbilly Elegy, whatever the hell book he wrote, being supported by a multi-billionaire white South African.
That's right.
And so that is the only way. What Greg is talking about is going to require some white, if we really want to go back to Reconstruction, some white radical Republicans.
No question.
To wake up and realize, damn, our asses have been played for the last 50 years, and them damn black folks were right as hell. So we need to listen to them to take this over. Otherwise, they just gonna keep believing, you penalize them, and we good, because you talking to them. That's the only way I see this thing changing.
Yeah, everybody's going to get their N-word wake-up call because Project 2025 is leaving no stone unturned. And we are seeing them with warp speed implement these policies that are about pruning the population, that are about re-engineering society, pathways to the middle class and upper class. Everybody think they're going to be the next Donald Trump billionaire, and he barely is a billionaire if he wasn't robbing and stealing. And so, yes, a lot of people are going to get their wake-up call. But to your point, Roland, a lot of people feel very, very comfortable right now with the idea that it's just going to hit them over there. You know, Donald Trump is for you, Kamala's for they, them. Well, all of us are the they, them, and Donald Trump's motherfucking America if you're not a billionaire. And so it's gonna take more pain. Apparently, COVID was enough because I guess everybody forgot about 1 million dead Americans when Donald Trump botched the pandemic. 400,000 businesses lost, millions of people's jobs lost. You couldn't go visit your granny at the nursing home. Everybody was Skyping and shit to have birthday parties and baby showers and canceling weddings. Apparently that wasn't enough pain. We got to
and not only that, didn't penalize the dumbass who botched it.
Oh no.
And wait a minute, and then blame the dude who had to clean it up to say why you didn't clean it up faster.
Yeah. Well, they didn't run against Donald Trump fucked up the pandemic. They ran against save democracy, which nobody really give a damn about like that. That was just a failing, stupid ass slogan. Nobody cares. Like, it was not a big deal. The vote blew out of the people, sure. But outside of them, that ain't enough of them. But, you know, the messed up part about this is at least with the pandemic, the cavalry came in. At least with the pandemic, you had Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. So people got some checks. They got their stimmies that they were still giving Donald Trump credit for 4 years later. You know, they got unemployment insurance. They weren't getting kicked out of their homes. Everything was laid out to try to give the American people a soft landing in a global pandemic. Now what we got in office with Project 2025 is a boot up the ass, okay? You're going to lose your food stamps. You're going to lose your jobs. You're going to be paying triple, quadruple for your student loans. Everybody who today is a good day to cancel student debt. You're going to lose your health insurance. Your rural hospitals are going to close down. And then guess what? You're going to have to deal with the military walking around your neighborhoods with rifles and shit. This is about to be a military occupation because they know they're about to rob this country blind. And they know that when people are desperate, that calls for desperate measures. So all of this is going according to their plan. And all of the people who voted for Donald Trump or did not vote, in spite of the threat that Donald Trump clearly faced, you asked for this.
It's a whole lot to have to factor in. And Nola, I keep saying it, and people can say, oh man, you know, you keep bringing this up, you keep talking about this, you keep that. But I don't care what anybody says. Literally the only way this thing changes outside of a physical civil war is a war at the ballot box. We just saw in Iowa 2 nights ago, a state Senate seat, Trump won 11%. That sucker flipped 20 points. But what does that mean? We saw this with Mamdani winning the primary. But what it requires, Nola, it literally requires a new type of candidate who, frankly, listened to Joe Madison. You gotta put it where the ghosts can get it. You gotta talk to people in a way where they understand an affordability issues, and you ain't talking about, no disrespect to everybody on here with a PhD, stop having fucking PhD conversations and have PhD conversations with regular ordinary people, and do what Ella Baker told the SNCC people. Take your college clothes off, put your overalls on, and go to them sharecroppers. Trust me, they might have a second or third grade education, but they smart as hell. That, to me, there has to be a massive uprising of those type of candidates to flip this, and it can happen, but it has to be mobilized and organized.
Y'all saw it, saying that like 53% of Republicans support a third Trump term limit. So the thing that I think about, Roland, I agree with everything you just said. We need to get to 26 first. And once we get there, we don't know what kind of shenanigans is going to be in store, because we know the Dems are going to sweep. We know that. The Dems are going to make gains. That will happen. But again, we need to get to 26. And what I'm interested in hearing is, what is that plan, right? How are we going to motivate people to get up and vote? How are we going to motivate people to understand what the next steps to this is? Because there are still too many people out there, for my taste, that still kind of believe, oh, maybe something will happen where it'll go back to normal, or maybe, you know, some magical thing will happen. And this is where that Southern Democratic strategy needs to come into place. And yes, I agree with you. You need to talk to everybody, meet them where they are. I had a conversation with Dr. Annie Andrews today, who's running for Lindsey Graham's seat. And I asked her straight up, I said, you know, what is your ground game? How are you engaging Black folks in South Carolina? Have you been on Roland Martin's show yet? And she said, no, I would love to. I was like, you need to make that happen right away. So this is about really, you know, drilling down on the base and getting people motivated. That is the word here, getting people motivated to get up to vote, because too many people are not understanding what's at stake. And God forbid you are watching Fox News every day. They're not tuned into these conversations. So it needs to be a multifaceted strategy, and the South needs to be in play, period.
In here, the point that Nola just made, Greg, here's a perfect example. Nola said 26. No. We got 25 elections. And so, like, perfect example. Let me find this piece. I was sent it the other day. You have a governor's race in New Jersey, and you've got a candidate, Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. And this is the political story. Mikey Sherrill could lose New Jersey if Dems don't win back Black and Hispanic voters. And it says a political analysis of election results shows a path for GOP nominee Jack Ciattarelli, and it runs through the places Sherrill was weakest in the primary. Okay, so she was real weak in Black and Hispanic. Now, you had, of course, Ras Baraka running. You had other candidates. Exactly. You had other candidates running. But here's the problem. It's right here. In majority Black municipalities, for example, Sherrill won just 16% of the Democratic primary vote compared to 34% nationwide. Now, as she races to expand her support beyond her winning primary coalition, she's competing against Ciattarelli for some of the same voters. Okay, so that's what the article says. Now, I've gotten multiple calls from people Now, 8 days ago, here's a poll that says she leads by 9 points among likely voters. Well, that's likely voters, okay? Now, I got a phone call the other day from some folks who are worried as hell that she ain't out here competing for black votes. Matter of fact, there was someone in Georgia. Let me find the article. They put an article in USA Today saying that they don't necessarily care for her. And this right here, this guy Oscar J. Give me 1 second. Let me close this out. This guy says, "I'm a black New Jersey Democrat. This is why I can't support Mikey Sherrill for governor." And I'm a black man, a Democrat, and the youngest person ever elected to the Newark City Council, small business owner and entrepreneur dedicated to rebuilding urban communities across the country. I stay active in every political cycle, and I'm a known and trusted neighborhood organizer within the city where I was born and raised. I've been trying to find a rationale to vote for Mikey Sherrill, and frankly, as an African American, I just can't do it, and neither can many blacks in New Jersey. And you go on, you can read the piece here. I see Reese with a face right here. Lisa, So as most blacks in New Jersey know, Sherrill has always had a difficult time communicating and integrating within our community. Perhaps it has not been reported, but that is the truth. During the primary, we witnessed examples that continue to give us great pause. Her cringe-worthy performance on The Breakfast Club, her foolish attacks against Ras Baraka, the decision to hire only a few people of color on her campaign team, and even her choice for lieutenant governor, who's African American, who many in our neighborhoods honestly do not know. For many blacks, each issue is deeply concerning and defines a pattern that has created a real uphill challenge for Mikey's campaign in November. Okay, so you got New Jersey race, that's in New Jersey. You've got here in Virginia, the House, Senate up for grabs. You got Spanberger running for Virginia Lieutenant Governor against a black candidate, Republican Winsome Sears, MAGA. And here's the thing, Spanberger she about as exciting as drywall paint. Okay, it's not like she's out here actually. I mean, she posted a video of her going to black churches. They deleted it, but the whole point here is
deleted it.
Yeah, the whole point here is you gotta actually have people who are willing to talk to the base. So before you can get to 26. You got to deal with 25. 25 is the setup to 26. And again, these white Democrats and these white Democratic strategists are playing the same dumbass games. And they're going to learn a hard lesson in 2026 if they don't truly change.
That's true. Roland, it's interesting the two sources that you kind of walked through there. One, Politico. The other, USA Today. These are, I guess they may be described as center-right publications, but the commercial mass news entertainment media is utterly worthless when it comes to political analysis. I'm saying that again, underscoring the central importance of Black Star Network in this, because these are the complicated conversations that they simply cannot have. I was watching, one of your colleagues and comrades, Mehdi Hassan. And it's interesting how he jacked Unfiltered, right? Mehdi Hassan Unfiltered. I'm like, Mehdi, okay, I see you, brother, I see you. But Zateo, when he started, Zateo, again, following your lead, Black Star Network. And again, these people started doing this now to get put out, and now they doing their thing, which they should have been doing at the beginning. But he makes a very important point. Corporate media can't tell the stories because they are looking at their profit margin, they're beholden to their shareholders. In both those stories, what you see is a misrepresentation of what's going on the ground. The interesting quote in that Politico article, I think it came from Antoinette Miles and the Working Families Party. Maurice Mo Mitchell, who went to Howard, one of my former students, he really centered in New York. We see them involved in the Mamdani campaign. You said something, all of this is important, Roland, but you elevated something again, underscored. This is a two-party system in this country. African people and those who are trying to work on the behalf of everyone use the Democratic Party as a delivery system. We're not Democrats. We use it as a delivery system because the other party has been wholly captured by the white nationalists. That's an inversion of the mid-19th century, as you say, when you had people like Charles Sumner in the Republican Party, or even the 1960s, where you had, for every racist like Russell coming out of Georgia, you had people like Everett Dirksen and them out of Illinois, and you might be able to use the Republican Party as a delivery system. That having been said, what happened in Iowa with Caitlin Dre is more reliable as a barometer of where we are in this country than anything's going to be in political and I think about Richard Pryor saying, don't you love when they find a Negro that they hire? That Negro tell me I'm in Newark and I can't vote for. Ask USA Today. Their job is to engender some notion that it's black people not going to vote. Now, we're very clear. The reason that white woman didn't perform well in Jersey and black communities is what you said. Rass was running. Now, the idea that that's going to linger over into a general election, we would rather stay at home or vote for Republican than this white woman who is clearly not someone that we support 100%, that's absurd. It's just like Spamberger in Virginia. Now, I said all that as a backdrop and a prelude to this finally. The electoral politics that we're engaged in now are seeing a sliver of white people, more than a sliver, maybe a plurality, who are terrified now. These are the white people in Flyover America whose NPR station now getting shut down because these white nationalists have snatched them $3 and trying to figure out a way to steer it into the Trump corporation's pockets. These are the white people in places like Iowa who voted for Caitlin Dre and flipped what was a double-digit Trump victory district during the election to a double-digit Dre victory in the general election. And these are the black people who, as Gary Chambers said, if you can energize them, like you said, I think half the state of Alabama had mayoral elections on Tuesday. When we saw our frat brother, when we saw the mayor of Birmingham, Randall Wolfen, reelected with about 10% of the eligible voters in Birmingham voting for him, because that's about the percentage of eligible voters that turned out in the election, what we are looking at is people who, if you tap into those people, will render all these bullshit stories irrelevant. That's why the line from the Working Families Party representative in that political story is important. She spoke to a united front. The united front doesn't look at Democrat and Republican. It looks at, can you vote your interest? And that's why Black Star Network is important, because you're talking about organizing, brother, and that will render all them corporate stories irrelevant. Right. They're looking for horse races.
But what it requires, though, Reese, it requires a Mikey Sherrill to bring her ass to places like this. It requires an Abigail Spanberger to come here. And again, I'm not saying only come here. I'm saying if you have any sense whatsoever, and I'm not just talking about candidates showing up, I'm also talking about how you spend money. The ecosystem is sitting right in front of you. So it's this show, it's Reese's show on Sirius XM, it's Clay Kane. You've got, and again, and nothing against them, but y'all, everybody don't listen to the Breakfast Club, and it don't mean that everybody listen to the Breakfast Club actually vote.
That's right.
Now see, we know how white media operates, where they only look for one person to be, the spokesman for black people to say, well, what do black people think? So let's call Charlemagne. But the reality is, and again, I'm not hating on Charlemagne, but
the political maverick.
But I know how white media works, because I saw it when I was at CNN. I was kind of like, hey, there's some other black people y'all might want to call to round this thing out. But we have to understand how these people operate. And so the smart play is, I need to be sitting here, and again, if I'm a Mikey Sherrill, I'm going to hire some black people and say, yo, you need to be on Ricky Smiley's show, D.L. Hughley's show. There's syndicated radio shows. You have key black digital shows, key podcasts, all of that.
That's right.
But it's called a strategy. Now, while I'm also articulating that strategy also goes for the interviews, but it also goes for the ad dollars. But the same strategy also goes for black people who are trying to do things and move us as a collective and not run and give story. I forgot what was that. It was some story that happened other day. It was recent. I saw this, but it reminded me of. I remember when Campaign Zero had launched an initiative, and they gave the exclusive reach to the New York Times. And Reese, when I say I cussed they asses out, I was channeling my man George Curry when he used to cuss out the National Urban League, who would always give the exclusive to their State of Black America report to Associated Press, and then come talk to NNPA. And they had an embargo, and then George got tired of that, so he just broke the embargo and told him to go to hell. But the thing is you have to understand that the ecosystem we're living in now, you just can't run an MSNBC and CNN. You have to create a concerted media strategy that's reaching multiple voices to get the audience to turn out. That's all a part of it. And frankly, some of these Democratic folk still ain't got the message because they still running that old bullshit game.
That's true. I mean, on the one hand, I want to tell Black people, grow the fuck up. It's going to be a white nationalist lunatic or these lame-ass white ladies who don't really fuck with the Blacks like that. They ain't got Black people on their staff. They ain't coming to our neighborhoods, aside from church 2 weeks before the election. But this is the situation that we find ourselves in because Black people didn't come out and vote like they needed to for Ross Baraka. And so you got the white lady and these white ladies, they was on the New York Times covers, and they're the cavalry. They're the new alpha Democrats. Who else was the other one they have? Elise Stefanik or whoever Child, white women are not going to save the Democratic Party, but I would like to see y'all try in 2025. Let's run this little experiment where y'all save the Democratic Party. Let's see a little bit of that action. But until then, Black people will try to understand the assignment. But what Democrats need to understand is that a lot of Black people are choosing the couch. And Black people have been underinvested, as Gary Chambers led off the show talking about, and they've been undercultivated and taken for granted. And as much as we can sit up here and beg and plead and connect the dots for people as to why it is so important that we activate our capacity, we ain't picking prom dates. This isn't Love Island. It's not America's Favorite Couple. We are picking people who are the least disruptive, the least obstructive to our humanity and our citizenship. But when people are disillusioned and disaffected, they ain't really trying to hear what we got to say. They want to hear from your ass directly. And unfortunately, the clock is ticking, boo, because you won this nomination how many months ago? Where you at? Bring your ass. And if you awkward, okay, that's fine. Come back again and try to, make people forget about the last time you were awkward. They got to get comfortable with Black voters because I am very skeptical that white folks is going to save the day in 2025. Hopefully, they'll save the day in 2026. But right now, what I'm saying, I ain't seeing it yet. So,
and again, it all depends upon the locale because, listen, it ain't that many of us in Iowa. So we gonna need
no, it's not.
Right.
It's
so,
not.
but the point is, depending upon where you are. So where it's a whole lot of y'all white people, I'm gonna need y'all to truly be woke and wake the hell up and realize what's going on. But the bottom line is, but where there are places where our vote matters, then we have got to maximize the hell of our vote. That's what has to happen. That's right. And it can't happen any other way. All right, let me go to a quick break. We come back. Donald Trump, y'all know he can't stand Black women. And Lord, this sister, she done fired back on the Federal Reserve. Lisa Cook, she done fired back at this punk ass. I'll tell you all about it. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Fun fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to continue the work that we do every single day. We're here 5 days a week. Actually, we're here 7 days a week, live 5 days a week. My show, 4 other shows on the network. You name it, this is what we do. So you want to give us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Use the same QR code for credit card up as well. Checks and money orders. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Send to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, and all y'all folks on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of y'all. Why we got 1,100 likes? We should easily be at 2,000 likes. Now, y'all keep running y'all mouths, but y'all ain't clicking that damn like button, okay? So click the like button, all right? Do that, and we should be at 1,500 or 2,000 before I come back from this break. Back in a moment.
Next on A Balanced Life, here on Black Star Network, we're talking what it means to be a balanced young adult and turning 21. I know 21 is one of those ages where you think you're grown. You can do whatever you want. The law says that you can. But what are you packing in your 21-year-old toolkit that will allow you to not only survive, but to thrive?
You have every right to make whatever decision that you want to make, okay? Because you're grown. Don't go out here and do something and then want to come back and expect somebody else to clean it up for you.
That's all this week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Jamia Pugh. I am from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, just an hour right outside of Philadelphia.
My name is Jasmine Pugh. I'm also from Coatesville, Pennsylvania.
You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook has officially filed a lawsuit against the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon con man in chief Donald Trump for his unprecedented and illegal effort to remove her from her position. In the lawsuit, she seeks a legal declaration that Trump's efforts to fire her are, quote, unlawful and void, asserting that she remains an active member of the board. Trump has reportedly sought to oust Cook based on allegations of mortgage fraud. Under the Federal Reserve Act, governors can only be removed for cause, which requires proof of misconduct or wrongdoing. In Cook's case, no evidence has been presented. She's made history as the first black woman to serve on the board of the world's most influential central bank, which plays a crucial role in setting U.S. interest rates. But she didn't just sue Trump. She also sued the Federal Reserve, including Chair Jerome Powell as well. Reese, what do you make of this?
Well, what I make of it is that Donald Trump has figured out that attacking black women is the quickest way to amass power without pushback. Of course, black women ain't going down without a fight. But the rest of the country, where is the reaction? When Donald Trump is threatening Jerome Powell, the markets reacted, and then Donald Trump was like, haha, just kidding. But he's seen time and time again, 300,000 black women have lost their jobs. If we say that we're ending DEI, nobody cares about the fact that he's amassing all of this outsized power over specific jobs in the federal government, which are supposed to be protected from political interference. This is another example where he's playing into the trope of black people, stereotypes that we are corrupt, that we're incompetent. And so then people turn this into whether this is about evidence being presented, whether the charges are true or not, that has nothing to do with it. This is all about Donald Trump trying to interfere with the Fed so that he can get these rock bottom low interest rates, which he's not going to get because the big, beautiful bill explodes the deficit by trillions of dollars. But also, this is about Project 2025. One of the aims of Project 2025 is to eliminate the Federal Reserve. They want to get rid of the Fed altogether. And so when you start deconstructing the Board of Governors and you start with black women, or a black woman specifically, with little to no pushback, then that allows them to further erode the role and the integrity of the Federal Reserve, which, by the way, the charge of the Federal Reserve is full employment and low inflation. We know that the other aim of Project 2025 is to remake society so that there isn't full employment. They want a permanent underclass, and they don't give a damn about how much we're paying. Look at the tariffs. So I wish that people would stop feeling so comfortable with attacks on black women, because the way that he's amassing power coming after black people, he gets to hold on that power. And then when that power is yielded at your white ass, your Asian ass, your Latino ass, then it's going to be a fucking problem. But guess what? By then, it's too damn late.
Nola?
I agree. You know, Reese gave a really good economic analysis, and I'll take it, towards the political science angle in terms of, this is the playbook. you have a group, there's a us versus them dynamic, and then there's a low-hanging fruit dynamic, which to him are Black women. And then, you also have a dynamic where you are making sure that you are inflicting pain. You want to be seen inflicting that pain because you don't want a vibrant working intellectual class. You don't want people in these jobs to question you, to push back. You want loyalists in these jobs, or you want, like Reese said, you want these agencies to disappear completely, just like with USAID, right? You don't want agencies in place that upset or could possibly disrupt your corrupt agenda. And the one thing that Donald Trump is being effective with is making sure that people understand that he will hurt you. That is very clear. He wants everyone to know that he will hurt you. And by these institutions complying, bending the knee early on, that did not help, right? And to Reese's point, this is how I honestly feel about the whole situation with Black women like me, like Reese. They don't want us in these spaces anyway, to begin with. They don't want the smart Black woman in a room, maybe decoratively, but for us to actually be effective, for us to actually show up and do our jobs, that's not what they want, which is why it was so easy for so many of these countries to say, bye-bye, DEI. Bye, y'all. It was a nice little run. See y'all next time when the next trend come around. They didn't want us there in the first place. So these people are being exposed. But my point remains, this is authoritarian 101. And unfortunately, scarily, the next step is something far more dangerous when we are talking about totalitarianism. And that's the stage of this that I am really, really worried about. Because right now, we still have these platforms. There's still some level of freedom of speech, but those rights, they're going to come for those too.
Yeah, what he wants to do, Greg, he wants to clear the field. We see this happen in the Department of Defense, to do whatever he wants because he doesn't want...
They're changing it to the Department of War.
He doesn't want anyone objecting, ignoring orders. This is truly an administration of sycophants, cult followers.
It is. There are a lot of different interests, though, as we see. Trump's interest is like his friend Bibi Netanyahu. I'm trying to stay out of jail. With the added incentive, I'm trying to make all the money in the world. The white nationalist agenda is white nationalism. Remember, Roland, and you'll know this history much better than I do in terms of political side. Remember Eric Cantor in Virginia?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when they were trying to bail out the banks, and Cantor and his crazy ass people in Congress were taking pride in that they was going to vote against the too big to fail stuff. There's a new article in Mother Jones where the guy kind of walks through that and he says, we are in fascism now. We're past the tipping point.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I look at that moment as the moment when we should have realized, there are people in that party who will just watch the world burn.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that element. There's that element of it. But this is a very interesting thing. First of all, shout out to our sister Cook, because he definitely hates Black women. I mean, and I understand why, because underneath that hatred is desire. But we'll talk about that another day. Maybe we can ask Omarosa to give us a little feeling as to his true feelings deep down in his heart of hearts. But at any rate, that notwithstanding, that's Trump's hang up. But let's be very clear. The villain of this piece, in many ways, is that nasty piece of work, Russell Vought. Because, see, all this is triggered. This particular case is triggered by one of Vought's boys, Bill Pulte, over there at FHA. He been combing through records, looking at people's mortgages. And so the same thing they tried to hang on Marilyn Mosby, the same thing they tried to hang on Adam Schiff, the same thing they tried to hang on Attorney General Tish James, they trying to hang on Lisa Cook. Because you've been scrubbing through the mortgages, looking if you can get a technicality. Because the Federal Reserve says you can't get her. I think she's confirmed through 2038. The only way you can get rid of a Federal Reserve commissioner is by calls, and she's going to court like, You can't show me. I ain't been convicted of no crime. Your little minion over there scrubbing through the mortgages thinks he's got me on something. But if you got me on something other than you sitting up putting something on social media in the middle of the night, sitting on your toilet in public housing at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, charge me with something. Then you might have a point of entry, but you don't. Now, here's where it comes down to. John Boy Roberts. Oh, it is. It's public housing. We paying for it, right? John Boy Roberts got a problem now. Remember in May, remember that Supreme Court case, Trump versus Wilcox, where another sister, remember they put off the National Labor Relations Board, she sues, gets to the Supreme Court, and Roberts and them are saying, well, we'll worry about the merits later, but in the interim, we can't reinstate you. But there is one entity. It ain't the National Labor Relations Board. It ain't any of the cabinet level departments. There's one entity that we say that you can't just go in there and do this to because it's too important. And it's quasi-private. Remember what John Boy said? It was the Federal Reserve. Now, Ketanji Brown Jackson and Sotomayor and Kagan and like, what the hell are you doing? He can't do it anyway. But, so you're going to carve out a special exception for the Federal Reserve? The constitutional crisis that Lisa Cook is going to force them to look down in the face is, you're going to choose this white supremacy over any notion of the rule of law? Because out your own mouth, John Boy, you said the Federal Reserve is not one of the entities that you can do this to. I am loving it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, they don't have the muscle. No, seriously, they don't have the muscle. They don't have the muscle to pull off what Trump is trying. But while he's trying it, I read an article yesterday, Financial Times, they're saying that perhaps one day we'll look back and they will call Donald Trump the father. He ain't going to win no Nobel Prize, but he might be called the father of the BRICS. Why? Because Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and all them countries that just signed up with the BRICS, 50% tariff on India. India's like, we're not giving up this Russian oil, and we got other people that are buying. Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, spent 3 days this week in Brazil because Lula and them are looking at bilateral trade agreements. Donald Trump is doing the world a favor by pulling the United States back from its central place in world economies. And in this crack, the world is moving on. Now, this is to all you ADOS Negroes who love your masters so much. If you Negroes don't wise up and build some solidarity politics with the rest of the world, you know what's going to happen? You're going to burn in hell with the rest of these hillbillies. This is the lesson we need to be learning from this moment.
Well, great to your point, look at Mexico announcing this, go to my iPad, suspending postal shipments to the United States. Japan has suspended postal shipments. So what's about to happen, all these folks who've been ordering stuff from Pinterest and Etsy and other places, DHL suspending. See, again, these folks want to be so nativist, so isolationist, that they don't understand that we literally are living in a global economy. They don't get that. And so it's like, okay, y'all want to sit here? Y'all want to sit in FAFO? Okay, y'all about to find out. And so then, because see, they're so dumb because they walking around like, oh man, Trump is so brilliant. No, he not. He throw the tariff stuff out, causing prices to spike, go crazy, the bond market going nuts. And then they say, man, what you doing? Did he back down? It's all over the place. And he just making this stuff up as he goes along. But again, but again, I keep saying this. We're never going to reach critical mass until enough white people are in pain. So if I see another white person who said, one woman talking about she about to lose her business and her daddy voted for Trump, he been calling the White House, and he ain't getting through nobody. So I'm telling y'all, I'm being white. My book is White Fear. This ain't gonna change until we deal with white pain and white tears. We gonna need white. I'm telling y'all, that's why when they passed that big, ugly, nasty, despicable bill, they delayed most of the cuts till after the 2026 election. So like all y'all dumbasses, a whole bunch of y'all dumbasses. Well, look at this here. My tax is going up. No, you stupid ass. That was the Trump tax cuts, and they pushed that stuff to 2023 and 24. That's what happened. But again, excuse me, because I know how to read. some breaking news here. This is from.
Oh God! What?
Yeah. Okay. So go to my iPad. This is from NBC News. 3 officers ordered to have new trials in the death of Tyree Nichols, Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Justin Smith were found guilty in a 2024 federal trial. They were acquitted on state counts. A Tennessee federal judge on Thursday ordered new trials for the 3 cops. Now, here's what's crazy, y'all. In a ruling, U.S. District Judge Cheryl Littman did not find any biased decisions by the federal judge in the 2024 case, as the officers' attorneys argued. But she said new trials were warranted because of an alleged comment the judge made following the trial that the Memphis Police Department was, quote, infiltrated to the top with gang members. The judge, Mark Norris, allegedly made the comment after his law clerk was shot in the chest during a carjacking on October 8th, 2024, 5 days after the federal jury convicted Bean, Haley, and Smith, according to court documents. An assistant U.S. attorney contended that they recall Norris expressed that, quote, he could not meet with any member of the Memphis Police Department to give a statement regarding the shooting of his clerk, as MPD is infiltrated to the top with gang members, according to background of the case cited by Littman. Lord have mercy. And for all y'all people, and see, let me go back to this point, Reese. Remember how many of these dumbass Simple Simons kept trying to tell us, man, y'all keep making a big ass deal, but all these black federal judges, Biden, Harris appointed, that shit don't mean nothing. Hello. This is a perfect example. Federal judges have unbelievable power, and they matter. And unfortunately, this judge decided to, get his stupidity on, and now they get new trials. And remember, the other cop who didn't plead guilty, they were found not guilty. So these cats could get off.
Oh
yeah. Because I mean, this is not a problem.
These cats could get off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, this is